Good morning, Pastor Ron Jetter, Immanuel Lutheran Church, Grandview, Washington, Tuesday the 20th of October, 2020. It could freeze one of these nights. Time to shut off the irrigation. The canals are still running. I'm surprised at that this late in the year. Must be a lot of water still up in the reservoirs that they're dumping, that they're pushing. So I may have to shut it off at the street, blow out all the pipes and the channels and drain all the hoses this afternoon or this evening, because it's a coming. Boy, we get 2 weeks of fall, huh? A hot summer and cold winter, and 2 weeks of fall and 2 weeks of windy spring. That's the way it is. If you hear noise in the background, it's because I have the fans going here in the sanctuary of Immanuel Lutheran Church. And that's how it'll be on Sunday mornings and on the Wednesdays that we gather in December in the evening. The heater will run to add a little bit of heat to the air, but we'll have a couple of windows open. We'll have fans running in order to keep air moving, so that if there is any presence of COVID in the air, those droplets will quickly scatter and dry out. Moving air, that's the enemy of the virus. Still, warm, dry, that's the friend of the virus. So that's what we don't want. We got to practice how to keep things going in here. And as I said, if you watch the other video, our precautions video, when we're singing, or when we're up and moving around, or when we're closer than 6 feet, the masks go on. Back to the story. The Bible is a wonderful book, and it's a terrible book. And today we get a terrible story. And yet even the terrible stories have wonderful purpose in them. We're still in chapter 4 of the book of Exodus. Moses has been told by God, "Go to my people." He says, "I can't talk." And God says, "Well, your brother Aaron is coming out looking for you, and he's pretty articulate, so let him do the talking for you. When you say to the tribal elders of Israel back in Egypt, I'm here to be the one who sets us all free." So, verse 21, the Lord said to Moses, "When you go back to Egypt, see that you perform before Pharaoh all the wonders that I have put in your power." Remember, there were the 3 wonders that he could turn a staff into a snake, he could turn water into blood, these little parlor tricks basically. "But I will harden his heart so that he will not let his people go." So God is going to harden his heart. That is to say, God is going to use Pharaoh's arrogance and his stubbornness against him. "Then you shall say to Pharaoh, 'Thus says the Lord, Israel is my firstborn son.'" Remember what Pharaoh's father did, killed the firstborn. Didn't want any of the boys to live. "I said to you, 'Let my son go, that he may worship me,' but you refused to let him go. Now I will kill your firstborn son." So God has already warned Pharaoh what God is going to do. Not what God may do, what God is going to do, as though this is inevitable. Now, here's where the story really gets kind of uncomfortable. On the way, at a place where they spent the night, the Lord met him, Moses, and tried to kill him. But Zipporah, his wife, took a flint and cut off her son's foreskin and touched Moses' feet with it and said, "Truly you are a bridegroom of blood to me." We don't know how old the firstborn son is, but he has second son. So circumcision is normally done when a baby is within the first week or so, by the 8th day for Israelite babies. And this kid's a little older, so it's uncomfortable. There's blood. It's not fun. And she then takes what she's cut off and touches his feet. So there's now blood on Moses. But remember, God said that in order to be one of my children, the males must be circumcised. And so now this son of Moses, who is a Midianite, has become, through this act of his wife, an Israelite, an heir to the promise, claimed by God. And Zipporah says, "You're a bridegroom of blood to me." She now begins to understand the terrible weight that has been laid upon her husband by her husband's God and the God of her husband's people, the Israelites. A bridegroom of blood by circumcision, she said. The Lord said to Aaron, "Go into the wilderness to meet Moses." So he went and he met him at the mountain of God and kissed him. Moses told Aaron all the words of the Lord which he had sent him, and the signs with which he had charged him. Then Moses and Aaron went and assembled all of the Israelites, all of the elders. Aaron spoke all the words that the Lord had said to Moses and performed the signs in the sight of the people. So Aaron has now been given these parlor tricks, the ability to impress the Israelite elders. And so Aaron, whom they knew and whom they trusted, is the one doing it, not Moses, the one who was raised in Pharaoh's house, the one who was a murderer, the one whom they don't even trust. And now Aaron's saying, no, really, you can trust my brother. Yeah, he is all those terrible things, but he's also the one God has chosen to use. The people believed, and when they heard that the Lord had given heed to the Israelites and had seen their misery, they bowed down and worshiped. They are finally recognizing that their prayers have been heard by God, and the one who God sent to answer those prayers isn't someone of their choosing. Again, they were not impressed by Moses. They needed Aaron to explain it to them. They needed Aaron to vouch for Moses. If it came to a vote, Moses would have lost. He would not have been the deliverer. They would not have taken his word at it. They would not have followed him. He would have done what he did anyway, but maybe they wouldn't have left. Maybe they wouldn't have followed him. We don't know. But they didn't get to choose him. God did. And Aaron said, God chose Moses as our deliverer. God has heard our prayers. This is all God's doing. But let's go back to God trying to kill Moses. Why did God try to kill Moses, and why did God relent from that when Zipporah circumcised Moses' firstborn son? Well, I think it was this. Moses was still leading two lives. He had become a Midianite. He had a Midianite wife, and his children were very much Midianites. And it could be that he had adopted the worship practices of the Midianites. God needed Moses to understand that God's claim wasn't simply on Moses. God's claim was on Moses' descendants, starting with his son, and that God could easily claim any one of them. How did God try to kill Moses? Well, we know God has appeared to, remember Jacob as an angel and wrestled with him and put Jacob's hip out of joint. So we don't know. It doesn't give us that detail. It just said God tried to kill Moses. Could have been through a snake. Could have been falling. We don't know. And all of a sudden, okay, you get it. It's about the firstborn son. Don't forget that, Moses. It's all about the firstborn son, because the firstborn son is how you dedicate yourself to me. I don't care that you give your life to me. You give your son's life to me. And that son gives his son's life to me. And that son gives his son's life to me. It's always looking a generation into the future, because that's what Pharaoh did. Pharaoh's the one who started this. Pharaoh's the one who said the Israelites are multiplying too quickly. Let's kill off a generation of boys, and that will result in a future missing generation, and that'll stop their population. China tried to do that. They limited families to one child, and some families had girls. In some cases, people did actually abandon those girls and leave them to die. And a number of those little girls who were abandoned were found by orphanages. One of those orphanages in Beijing is run by the Catholic Church. And let's see, how many years ago was it now? 23, 22 some odd years ago, my brother and his wife went to Beijing as part of a group of parents seeking to adopt, a group of Catholic parents. And they met this little girl, a year or so old, and she was the tallest of the group. Her name was Chunjia, and they named her Catherine Chunjia Jetter. And today she is an engineer working for Cisco Systems, graduated San Jose State with honors in industrial engineering. Beautiful, tall, wonderful, smart. I am so proud of my niece. But I think of the terrible policies that China believed they had to set to limit their population, so that people who had a girl would abandon it so that they could have another child, hopefully a boy. Why? Because boys are required and allowed to honor their dead ancestors. Girls are not. So it seemed this idea that males are worth something and females are good for birthing males and nothing else, it still persists in many parts of the world today. We got a long way to go, baby. See you tomorrow.